Welcome to Above Replacement Radio. I am your host, Chris Gianta. I might be becoming a bad baseball fan who can't enjoy the romantic things because of advanced statistics. 15 years from now, I want to be on the early baseball committee. Over there on the other side of the screen is Daniel Curran.
I literally have the Fangraphs hoodie, the baseball reference t-shirt, just repping some stats, you know what I'm saying?
It's not necessarily Hall of Fame. It's not necessarily above average, but we can guarantee you we are better than just the standard replacement level college sophomore.
And welcome to Above Replacement Radio. We're talking baseball kind of whenever. I'm your host, Chris Gianta. Over there across from me, as you cannot, or no, to the left of me, as you cannot see on YouTube, unfortunately, is Daniel Curran. How you doing, Daniel?
Chris, I am doing well today. I don't know.
Yeah. No,
sometimes it feels like I'm kind of just making stuff up to say for this part.
Yeah, no.
But, yeah, I don't know. We're talking about baseball today, believe it or not.
We are talking baseball. We're fully done with classes.
Yeah, I just finished my last final.
Yep, me too.
Done with 16th grade.
Yes. It's a good way of putting it. Yeah, I have thought about it like that before. And, yeah, there were, our window, my bedroom window, your bedroom window also looks outside to the Springfield College Senior Green, and it looks like they're setting up for Senior Week, which is fun.
Yeah. Good
stuff. We'll see how this week goes. It will not stop the pod though. No. As we keep rolling here, we have some baseball news to talk about. Teams, kind of at this point we talk about team trends, and probably the worst team trend that we haven't talked about yet is the Mets in their last 14 games. They have lost 11 out of 14. That is good for the second worst record in the MLB in that span, and they also have the worst Pythagorean win-loss, meaning they basically have the worst run differential in this span here. What are you thinking about this horrible stretch for the Mets?
I mean, it feels not surprising given the way that a lot of their season has gone. There you have the second lowest pitcher F4 in the league throughout the entire year. They're at minus 0.1. The pitching leader in F4 is David Robertson, and he is double the second best, which is Drew Smith. The best starter that they have by F4 is Kodai Senga at 0.1. Yeah. Scherzer has struggled this year. Verlander did not look good in his one start. Carrasco has been struggling. He has an even strikeout to walk ratio. That's extremely problematic. Yeah, I mean the pitching just has not been getting it done for the Mets. And I know you mentioned, or you are going to mention specifically lately they haven't been getting it done either. But it's definitely been a season-long thing.
Yeah, as you mentioned, pitching not looking great for the Mets. In this 14-game span, their pitchers have the second worst ERA and the third worst FIP in all of baseball. I believe they have a flat 6 ERA in their last 14 games. If you want to go individually, David Peterson has 11 earned runs allowed in 10 innings pitched in this span. Tyler McGill has 3 starts in which he has a 6.28 ERA and a 4.96 FIP. Max Scherzer in his one start back from the suspension allowed 6 earned runs in 3 1/3 innings pitched, and offensively too, not looking great. As you pointed out before recording, 85 weighted runs created plus in this span. Also the second least amount of runs scored in their last 14 games, and then individually with that, Starling Marte has a 434 OPS. That's a guy who they want, as a reliable outfielder to put up at least average offense along with, his base running and defensive skills. And he hasn't been able to do that lately. And then potentially their biggest bat, Pete Alonso, has also been struggling over the last 14 games. 458 OPS from him. So, after having a really, really good, first few weeks where he was just hitting home runs all over the place, he's kind of come back down to earth, and the offense is taking a toll because of it.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of the perfect way of putting it. Looking at their pitching specifically in this span, I mentioned, Scherzer has struggled. He's only made one start because this was after the incident with Phil Cuzzy where he got suspended, but he did not look good in his one start, which I believe was against the Tigers. Very funny seeing Verlander and Scherzer pitching against the Tigers in the same series. Yeah, I mean, their offense looked like they never left.
Yeah. Right. Yep. Yeah, the Mets, it's weird, like, this whole season, I know that they had a decent stretch against some, I guess, worse teams, but it seems like it's been sort of a start and stop process, or maybe they just haven't gotten started because, you start off opening day, it's announced that, Justin Verlander, he's out for a couple weeks.
You also had Edwin Diaz, that whole thing go down.
Yeah, the whole Edwin Diaz thing was very detrimental, even if it's not, roster wise,
yeah, I mean, I don't think this team would be much better with Edwin Diaz right now anyway.
Right, but just morality wise, it's not great to have that happen, right before the season starts. And then the whole Max Scherzer thing, that was a big thing in the news, and it also obviously takes away from 2 starts from him, or maybe even 2.5 because he got pulled in the middle of that game. So I just energy wise, it just seems kind of off because they haven't been able to be the Mets that they kind of signed up to be before the season started.
They are striking guys out at a decent rate, but they're giving up 1 point. Their rotation as a whole is giving up 1.9 home runs per 9 in this span. Actually, sorry, that's all season. Yeah, they're giving up 1.9 home runs per 9 the entire season in this span, which dates back to April 22nd.
Yeah, that's almost double league average.
I would imagine it is 2.15.
Yeah.
That is the worst in baseball. They have a 640 FIP, their rotation, over the last 2 weeks. They have minus 0.6 F4 in that span as well.
Yeah, and in this particular span, we've only seen 1 start each from Verlander and Scherzer, who are the obvious heads of that rotation. Carrasco is, someone you didn't want to rely on, but because of the Quintana injury, you kind of sort of had to. So he's not someone you necessarily wanted out there. Peterson, I don't think they necessarily wanted out there, but they had to do it. Kodai Senga's he's been doing pretty well. He's one of the only guys that's doing pretty well.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at his whole season, he has a 3.38 ERA, which is solid. Kind of what they signed up for. But his FIP is 5.20 or something like that.
Yeah, so that
not ideal.
We'll see how that translates over the course of the full season. But yeah, what's your concern level on the Mets right now?
It's definitely a concern given how the Braves are playing, and I know that I think. If there was anything to take away from last postseason, it's that you don't really need to put that much emphasis on winning the division. As long as you just get to the playoffs, it seems like you have the same shot as everyone else. So I'm not worried about the Mets missing the playoffs right now. Of course, it's possible they do. They're definitely not in a playoff spot right now, but I mean, they're what? How close would they be to a wild card spot? Not that far. If I'm looking at it right now, I think. If the season ended today, obviously Braves, Pirates, and Dodgers would go to the playoffs. The wild cards would be the Brewers, Cubs, and Padres. Or no, sorry, the Brewers, Diamondbacks, and Padres. And the Padres have the worst record of those teams at one game above 500. The Mets are 1 game below. So there's no reason to worry about their playoff chances right now. But they are 7 games out of the division.
Yeah, I mean, luckily they did set themselves up somewhat well in the general month of April. I know at one point they were 14-7, 7 games above 500. So having a weird stretch like this, it could be worse. However, also what should be noted, we forgot to mention, is this is not happening against the highest of competition.
No, they're playing the Tigers and Rockies.
Yeah, they got swept by the Tigers, albeit at Comerica Park, but they lost a series to the Rockies at Citi Field.
Yeah, losing to the Rockies is one thing, but losing to the road Rockies is a concern.
It's very much a concern. Right, it's definitely not what the Mets want there. yeah, I mean, a loss to the Tigers. Lost a series to the Braves. Didn't get swept, so I guess that's a little win in itself. Also, yeah, in the stretch, um, lost a series to the Nationals at Citi Field. That's not great either.
No, it's not.
Nationals should projected to be a last place team. Definitely, I think are in that division a
They are,
last place.
yeah, they have been interesting.
Yeah, they haven't been as rollover a team as we would have thought so far this season.
But yeah, I mean that's you got to pencil that it's in as a series win every time if you're the Mets.
Yeah, and then where this started was the Mets had a 2-0 series lead on the Giants, but then they lost the last two, and then lost a series to the Nationals, series to the Braves, swept by the Tigers, and then lost a series to the Rockies. So, I mean, luckily they still have an easy stretch going for the next week. They have Cincinnati and Washington again. So yeah, maybe they can get back on their feet against still lower competition before eventually they face the Rays here on May 16 through 18. So yeah, I kind of agree with you that the concern level isn't too high considering division was going to be tough. We knew. So if they don't win the division, it's not the end of the world.
I would be concerned with Scherzer and Verlander though. Verlander we've obviously only seen one start, but Scherzer, I don't really think we've seen a good start out of him this season. You know what I mean? He's pitched 4 or 5 games this year. I don't really think after one of them you've been like, yeah, that's our guy. That's the guy we signed up for. He hasn't gone deeper than 6th innings in any start, and he hasn't gone into the 6th inning since opening day.
Wow.
Yeah, he has. So on April 4th he pitched 5 1/3 and gave up 5 runs. Only 3 strikeouts and 2 walks. And then on April 10th he went 5 scoreless, albeit, but I mean still, if Max, you don't want Max Scherzer's best outing to be 5 scoreless. And then obviously the Dodgers start, he had been 3 scoreless and then he got ejected. And then on this most recent May 3rd start against the Tigers, one of his old teams, 3 1/3, 8 hits, 6 earned runs, 1 walk, 3 strikeouts, 2 home runs allowed.
Yeah. And yeah, just looking at Savant, his average exit velocity has gone from 87.8 miles per hour to 91.0 miles per hour. Over 3 mile per hour increase. Sweet spot rate is up 7.2 percentage points. Barrel rate is up 5.2 percentage points.
Yeah, and I mean, most importantly, he's striking out less. I mean, it used to be like death taxes, Max Scherzer with a K per 9 above 10.
Yeah.
Now he's striking out less than 1 per inning as of right now.
Yeah.
Which, it's to the point where all that can change in one start. Let's say next start he goes out there, 6 innings pitched, 10 Ks, it's over 9.
Yeah.
It's only 20 strikeouts in 22 and 2/3 innings. So
right, and just looking at his Savant page, you can see all his numbers since 2015, and that strikeout rate every single year, 30% or above, except this year where it's barely cracking 20.8%.
Yeah.
So it's like 10% below normal. And yeah, I'm wondering what that is. His fastball velocity is 0.9 miles per hour down from where it was last year.
Which is not a crazy thing, not anything to be alarmed about.
Not crazy, but you can tell, he's probably getting a little bit older. And yeah, probably just getting on all his pitches getting pretty much less swings and misses. So yeah, we'll see how it spans over the course of a whole season. It's 22 innings out of probably like 140, 150 that we'll see this year. Maybe, probably more considering the history of what Scherzer does and how far he gets into games. But yeah, so far we haven't seen that.
No, we really haven't.
Anything more on the Mets before we move on to another team?
No, I mean that's kind of all we had, I think.
So one of the teams that the Mets got swept by, they've been kind of rolling and they've sort of recorrected. We were really concerned about them at the beginning of the year. We had like multiple segments on how bad they were playing. They lost 9 of their first 11 games, but since then, they kind of were treading water, and then they just went on a 5 or 6 game win streak. It just ended yesterday, but albeit, I mean, they're still, I think now, only 4 games back in the AL Central. The Detroit Tigers have been doing pretty well. They are 13-9 in their last 22 games, which isn't gonna shake the earth or anything. But in the AL Central, especially so far this year, that can make a mark. There's only one team above 500 in that division right now, and the Tigers, as of yesterday, were in second place in that division. So what are you thinking about the Tigers?
Yeah, I believe they still are in second base, actually. I mean, I highlighted Eduardo Rodriguez last show as my how about that. This team had, their offense is kind of still doing that thing. They have a 93 weighted runs created plus since April 13th, which was when they won to become 3-9.
Yes.
So it's definitely been on the pitching side that they've been dominating, specifically the bullpen. Their bullpen has been legitimately elite during this span. I know. I'm just pulling up numbers now, but I know Alex Lang had like 15.5 strikeouts per 9 with like barely any walks and no home runs allowed.
Yeah, the Tigers overall have 8th best ERA since April 13th, and their bullpen ERA is 4th best at 2.72. And yeah, Lang is a probably future how about that, because I didn't really know much about him, but like he has really been taking action, and I forget the other guy's name who I
Jason Foley.
Maybe I'm trying to think.
Garrett Hill? No, definitely not Garrett Hill.
But I just know he had no runs allowed in his last 12 innings or something.
Will Vest.
It might have been Will Vest, because I remember it being a shorter name.
Yeah, that's probably what it is. All these names are not that short.
Yeah, Will Vest. Will Vest so far this year, 8 2/3 innings, no runs allowed, 10 strikeouts, 3 walks. So yeah, I kind of criticized the Tigers over the offseason for letting go of Soto, Jimenez, and Chafin, because the bullpen was the best part of their team. But it looks like they've kind of found their guys still.
Yeah, no doubt. Yeah, I want to look at the starter side of it too. This is.
Yeah, I mean, Erod is the most notable, and you highlighted him last episode. That's great. And yeah, the numbers are still. Are the numbers still what they were?
No one else is particularly good, as a matter of fact. Erod, since April 13th, has an 0.31 ERA.
Yeah. Yeah, and
no one else in that rotation looks particularly good, believe it or not.
And yeah, as Daniel mentioned last episode, it's a lot to do with higher cutter usage, and amazing results in the cutter, like a 111 slugging against overall or something.
Which is funny because it's still his third most used pitch.
Yeah, right. But it's a lot more used than it was when he was with the Red Sox.
It's also funny that he has a BABIP against of 159, because that was the biggest curse against him in 2021.
I'm glad. I'm happy for him.
Yeah,
happy.
He deserves it.
Happy it's turning around. And
their defense actually looks very good during this span, particularly. They have a 4.2 defensive runs above average as a team. That's among the top in baseball. I want to see where they rank overall this year.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of who would raise. I mean, Baez is a former Gold Glove.
It's Baez. Overall, they have 9 outs above average this year, and that would be 4th best in the majors.
Yeah, I mean, that's a very good
Second
sign.
best in the AL.
Yeah, that's gonna help. Erod out.
2021, they were one of the worst. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, you figure no Baez, and I don't know. Candelario was kind of below average.
So it looks like it's. Well, I mean, I guess this makes sense because it's Erod, but their infield defense specifically has 8 outs above average. That is 5th best in the league. Their outfield, I wouldn't imagine, is as good. Yeah,
right.
Their outfield outs above average is 9th. It's still. I mean, outfield is a lot harder in general to accumulate outs above average.
Yeah, and it doesn't consider arm strength.
Yeah, arm strength, I think is highlighted a lot more as an outfielder than it is as a shortstop or third baseman.
Yeah. So although the Tigers' offense is still 7% below average in this span, I'll tell you who's turned it around since we started talking mess about him. is Javier Baez.
Yeah.
Since April 13th, he's hitting 347 with a 949 OPS and a 165 weighted runs created plus. And yeah, I mentioned that he's always a candidate for how about that or slightly alarming. It's one or the other. He's never kind of at just like a 105 OPS plus. He's either in the middle of being the worst hitter in baseball or
carrying his team.
Or carrying his team along with being a Gold Glove defender. One or the other. That's what's going to happen. And right now, Javier Baez is on the positive side of that. And then another notable hitter who's been doing well, Eric Haas, catcher.
I think it's Hayes.
Eric Hayes. He is hitting 345 with a 915 OPS as well.
Pretty good.
But yeah, Baez. But anytime Baez can be a good offensive player, like that's going to improve the team, no doubt about it. Especially when he doesn't have like a 4 weighted runs created plus.
Yeah.
Not going to be an automatic out every time.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, so yeah, the Tigers, I don't know. How optimistic are we about this little kind of mini run they're having?
I mean, I did pick them over the Royals to finish 4th this year, so I definitely feel good about that right now. They're 7 games above Kansas City in the standings. I definitely like that they're doing this in the AL Central more than I would if they were doing this in the AL East.
Yeah, right. It would be
sure.
very irrelevant in the American League East.
Yeah, I mean, they're 15 and 18, and they're 3 games behind the first place Twins at 19 and 16.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's good. I don't hate it.
Yeah, I don't hate it either. Also, Tigers have the weakest strength of schedule remaining.
Like in the whole league?
In the whole league.
Wow.
And the White Sox are, there's correlation between Central teams and having the...
Oh, no doubt, because they all play each other and they're all bad.
Yeah. But, yeah, them and the White Sox have the weakest strength of schedules remaining. So, yeah, when I did that opening weekend overreaction, I talked about my concern levels with the Tigers because they got swept in a very non-competitive series with the Rays, and I was like, you never know at the end of a opening series because it could be one team being really good or one team being really bad. I chose the Tigers being really bad, and look at the Rays.
Yeah, they are 28-7.
They're 28-7. And the Tigers, they've kind of recovered since then. They're literally
they're 500 since
then.
They're
literally 500 since then. So, yeah, I guess my overreaction was going in the wrong direction. I should have said the Rays are going to be the best team in baseball.
It's okay. Nolan Gorman is cooled off too, so
yeah,
it's fine.
Yeah, it's all good. So yeah, it's optimistic, and the players you needed to bounce back are bouncing back, most notably with Eduardo Rodriguez and Javier Baez.
Mm-hmm.
And they're probably still waiting on some players. Yeah, Torkelson hasn't had the bounce back we're hoping for, but I still think he's doing a little bit better than last year.
Yeah, I mean, Riley Green looks decent as well. He's kind of doing the little things right, playing good defense, running the bases.
Yeah.
He just needs to be more consistent offensively. And I think there's reason to believe that that'll come. So that's exciting.
Yeah.
Yeah, what's crazy? I'm just looking at the next team that we're about to talk about. The top 4 teams in the American League East since April 20th are all AL East teams.
Wow.
It goes Rays, Red Sox, Orioles, Blue Jays.
The top 4 American League teams are all AL East.
That's crazy.
Wow. Yeah, it's a wild division. At some point there needs to be a trade of like, all right, we're changing divisions. We're if every team's gonna face each other every year.
Yeah.
Let's just make some switches, make things a little more even.
I think the 3 versus 6 in the AL playoffs this year, the 6 seed might be favored.
Yes.
Like whoever wins the AL Central versus
right. Oh, we have
versus like the 6-seeded Blue Jays.
We have the 85 and 77. We have the 85 and 77 Twins going against the 98 and 64 Yankees.
Yeah. It would be very funny if the Twins have to draw the Yankees in that scenario.
Oh my God, yeah, yeah.
I know they did win the series this year, Mets for the first time since I was a year
True.
old. But
it's a different
yeah,
different
listen,
book in
it's
in the playoffs.
they call them the T's because
Yeah.
they don't win in the playoffs.
True. Yeah, very unfortunate. um. So yeah, the Tigers are not looking like a disaster, which is, I mean,
It's big.
way better than most AL Central teams. All right. So now the last team we'll get into before players to highlight is the Red Sox, who they also had a winning streak end yesterday, Sunday the 7th for reference. But they had an 8-game win streak. They gained some ground. They are currently fourth in the AL East at 21-15. But yes, they have I think the 5th best record in the American League overall.
They might have the 5th best record in like baseball.
Because right now I have Rays, Orioles, Blue Jays, Rangers, Dodgers, Braves.
They have the 5th or the 6th best record in baseball.
Okay. Yeah.
And the 4th best record in their own division.
Yeah, the AL East is just nuts. Yeah, the Yankees would be 1 game out of the AL Central, and they're in last place. That's a very funny image.
That's awesome.
So, yes, the Red Sox went on an 8-game win streak. We talked about them for like 1 minute in our last episode, but yeah, I think they deserve their own segment. What are you thinking about? What are you thinking about the hometown team?
Yeah, the hometown team is hitting .303 with a .361 on base and a .498 slugging since April 20th. That is their last 17 games played. They're 12-5 over such games. There's a lot that's just going right. Like I don't know, the type of stretch where when your team gets down and you're like, well, they could come back.
Yeah.
Like it's such a weird feeling. Like even like I remember, stretches where it's like the Red Sox would blow a game in the 9th. It's like, well, they'll still win it in the 10th.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the stretch that they're on right now. You obviously talked about Jarren Duran recently on how about that. But the true star of this team over the span has been Masataka Yoshida. I mean, it's no doubt. The guy is, I wish he was walking a little more, but I'm not going to complain because he's slashing .438, .479, .750 over his last 16 games. He has a 16-game hit streak during this time. He's been overwhelmingly the best hitter in the league over this span.
Yeah, and Yoshida's had like quite the interesting like couple months of how he's been viewed in like the baseball landscape because WBC was like, wow, I can't believe the Red Sox got him, and then the first like 12 games of this year was like, oh my God, why did the Red Sox ever get this guy? He's a ground ball machine. He's not gonna do it. And then yeah, I mean, he's been one of the best hitters in baseball over time. And shout out to us so far. That AL Rookie of the Year pick is looking decent.
For me, that player to watch as well.
Yes.
The craziest thing about this entire streak is they're doing it kind of without Rafael Devers. I mean, he's only hitting .227 in this span. He has a .284 OBP, .470 slugging, and 4 home runs. Don't get me wrong, but overall, he has a 92 weighted runs created plus. Devers is definitely the type of guy where if the Red Sox are rolling, he's probably at the center of it, and he's not even really in the fray.
Yeah, that's weird. Is that in the last 17 games?
Yeah, that's in this exact span.
He definitely did better on the tail end of it because during the win streak he had a 965 OPS.
Yeah.
But yeah, while the whole team was just doing well, yeah, he must have had a really bad 8-game stretch to hold them back before the win streak.
Yeah. The funny thing, Tristan Casas has like one of the weirdest slash lines: 211, 367, 368 for a 107 weighted runs created plus.
Yeah.
He has a 20% walk rate. Pretty good.
Yeah.
He's came very close to hitting a couple big homers, but he's hitting the ball a lot to center field, like high fly balls that are just being caught on the warning track. He got one yesterday. In Philly, it was also to center field.
Yeah.
But I think Casas is getting ready to cook.
Yeah, no,
he's so close.
Because there's things that there's some maturity to his hitting already, like with the high walk rate, very, very low chase rate.
Yeah.
And he hits the ball hard. I know his BABIP.
It's 231 in this span.
Yeah, his BABIP just overall throughout the season has been bad, and some of that has been a slightly poor batted ball profile, but some of that has been bad luck too. That's for sure.
He's never really had a great batted ball profile since he got called up last year. I know
Yeah.
he hit a lot of ground. He had a 2-degree launch angle last year, hit a lot of ground balls, and a lot of pop-ups too. This year, he does look a lot better. 36% ground ball rate, 33% fly ball rate. It's just he doesn't really have the exit velocity to go specifically with the fly balls.
Yeah.
And they're also like the high fly balls that don't technically qualify as pop-ups. He does also have a 9.5% pop-up rate too.
What's his sweet spot rate?
His sweet spot rate is 14.8. Or no, sorry, that's his launch angle. That's really bad. 28.6%.
So yeah,
Still not good.
Below average.
Yeah.
4.4 percentage points below average. But yeah, he's a young player. I think he's 23 right now.
Yes, he is.
Getting adjusted, and he's still, the best first base option they have, unless they wanted to do some moving around and put Turner at first. But even, Turner during this win streak he wasn't the guy that was helping out. Some more players to mention. I went with looking up stats for this for the Red Sox. I looked specifically at the streak. During the win streak, they hit 341 with a 943 OPS and a 157 weighted runs created plus. All those led the league. They also, very notably, had a 16.5% strikeout rate. That was the best in the league. I feel like with the Red Sox, historically we haven't looked at them as like a low strikeout rate team. But in that win streak, they had a very, very low strikeout rate. Connor Wong, ARR alum Connor Wong,
Yes.
had a 1,000 slugging in that 8-game win streak and a 303 weighted runs created plus.
He was so close to having a 3 home run game.
Yes, yeah.
He hit 2 home runs and then hit like a double high off the monster that would have been gone at like certain parks because it was kind of a line drive.
Yeah, it was probably gone at like 29 out of 30.
I can check.
But yeah, 22 plate appearances.
So great saying I can check.
Yes, 22 plate
Absolutely
appearances
love that.
with a 1,000 slugging. Alex Verdugo also just overall having a really good year. But during that win streak in 8 games, 31 plate appearances, hit 385 with a 1292 OPS. His walk rate seems to be increasing, which is a very good sign.
And he's hitting the ball in the air.
Hitting the ball more in the air. He had over a 50% ground ball rate in 2021.
The Connor Wong double was gone in 12 ballparks,
So
including Rogers Center. They were playing the Blue Jays at the time.
Yep. And yeah, Yoshida 429 average and a 1250 OPS, and that I think his span probably looked better in 17 games than it did in 8. And then Rafael Devers, Jarren Duran, and Manuel Valdez all had 900 plus OPSs in 25 plus plate appearances in the during the Red Sox 8-game win streak. So the offense looked amazing, that's for sure. I think their biggest question mark is pitching, specifically the starting rotation. I mean, I don't know. They're still kind of figuring that out. It's weird. But Chris Sale has had glimpses of greatness for sure. But yeah, and Corey Kluber, there's a big question mark on that. I don't know if he's necessarily that,
I have no idea what this rotation looks like in a week, in a month, after the trade deadline, maybe in October if they get there. I have no clue.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know who's starting game 1. I don't know who's starting game 2, game 3, game 4.
Nope.
There's not a single person I can be confident in right now.
Nope, not at all.
Which
not
is
at
very
all.
fun.
But at least they're swinging the bat right now.
Yeah.
And
Bullpen looks solid as well.
Yeah. Shout out to it is funny going from Dombrowski to Bloom, where like it goes from no bullpen construction whatsoever to like all bullpen.
Kenley Jansen has looked fantastic all year, but in this span, he did only pitch 4 2/3 innings because they scored so many runs they didn't need him. Am I right? But he had 13.5 strikeouts per 9, 1.93 walks per 9, no home runs allowed. Josh Winkowski, he's a guy that I've liked for a while, and I'm glad to see him finally doing it in relief. A 1 ERA over the span, a 2.46 FIP. Chris Martin came back from injury and has looked good in a few appearances as well, along with John Schreiber, who looked good last year. Yeah, that's kind of most of the bullpen stuff.
Yep. And Red Sox got Braves on the road for 2 games. And then they come back to Fenway. They face St. Louis, and we'll see them for a game.
We will.
And yeah, who knows what version of the Cardinals we'll see there. But if they're seeing the version that's played so far in 2023, that's a good series to, good series for the Red Sox for sure.
Yeah.
And then Seattle, San Diego, Angels, and Diamondbacks. So that's a interesting tough stretch. Long, looks like
all those teams are over 500 except for the Mariners. Are the Mariners 500? They are exactly 500 after winning a series against the Astros.
Looks like a 9-game West Coast road trip.
And they could have swept. The Mariners could have swept that series too. The one game they lost was in extra innings. Matt Brash came in and gave up a home run to Kyle Tucker in the 10th.
Yep.
And they ran the bases really weirdly. By the way, I don't know if you saw this yesterday, but there was this really weird rundown in the Yankees-Rays game.
I did see that.
Yeah, the one with Aaron Hicks.
Yeah. It it was like, because he just stopped in the middle of the baseline, but there was no tag applied. Because I saw it and I was like, well, he didn't tag him, so this play is still going. Because normally after that you expect an out call, but there was just no.
Well, because I think it was Ryan Thompson who was pitching. Like, he got hurt applying the tag.
I think it was Clevenger.
It was Garrett Clevenger. You're absolutely right. Ryan Thompson pitched earlier. Yeah, I think it is Clevenger, actually. I know it.
Yeah, it's a weird spelling.
Clevenger, but Garrett Clevenger got hurt not applying the tag because he tripped over Hicks or something. So he kind of got distracted while the ball was just loose. And then I forget who was fielding, but the guy had to flip to the catcher to get the out because Hicks kind of just stopped in the middle of it, thinking he was tagged when he wasn't.
Right.
Which, I mean, had he scored, it only would have been a tie game at the end of the 10th because the Rays ultimately walked it off in the 10th. But you don't know. I mean, the Yankees, I said that the Rays series was going to be make or break for them. They could have won all 3 games, but they really should have won on Sunday. They were up 6-0, and Garrett Cole was left out too long. Obviously, a lot of baseball fans love to jump on, clowning on Garrett Cole, but he shouldn't have been in as long as he was.
Right. Yeah. He was kind of, although he was cruising through
5,
and then
5-4-5,
and then a catastrophic inning.
Yeah. Gave up his first 2 home runs of the year.
Yep.
So his it ballooned his home runs per 9 to .3.
Yeah.
Oh no.
Yeah. Poor Team Corey. Shout out to the F4 League.
Yes.
All right. We'll get into players to highlight.
Yeah.
All right. So now we will get into the part we've most prepared for, players to highlight. We'll start with the good vibes with our Monday, May 8th, 2023 edition of. How about that? Who do you have for us today?
So my how about that was traded over the offseason to his current team, and I think he was probably the most forgettable player in that trade. No disrespect to him, but I'm talking about Lourdes Gurriel Jr., who has been killing it for the Diamondbacks lately. Dating back to April 12th, he is slashing .365, .427, .629 for a .1075 OPS and 189 weighted runs created plus. All of those rank in the top 10 among qualifiers. Before this span, he had a strikeout rate in 2023 of 21.4%, and in the span, it is down to 10.9%, the 13th lowest in the majors. He currently has a career low overall in strikeout rate at 14.5% and a career high in walk rate at 7.3%. So he is, striking out less, walking more. One thing about him is that he has sinker immunity. His ground ball rate against sinkers this year is 50%, which sounds like a lot, but it's actually 4% below the average for this year. But the non-ground balls he has against sinkers include 3 home runs, a triple, a double, and a single. And also 3 of the ground balls he has are singles, so he is absolutely raking against them this year. He leads all of Major League Baseball with a 7 run value against sinkers, which means that he's produced approximately 7 runs given the results he's had against them. That leads the majors. And he is 7th among the 279 hitters with at least 10 plate appearances against sinkers in run value per 100 with 6.8. That means for every 100 sinkers he's seen, given the results, he's producing about 6.8 runs, and that is his 7th highest among 279. And on that same list, he ranks 10th in batting average against sinkers with 450, 4th in slugging with a 1050, and 5th in WOBA with a 633. The Diamondbacks are, hanging on to the they're not at the top of the NL West anymore, but they're hanging on to a so far pretty good season. They had high expectations, and I don't know how much they were expecting out of Lourdes Gurriel Jr. this year, but they've been getting some fantastic production out of him offensively.
Yeah, Lourdes Gurriel Jr.
About that? How about that?
So there's been a few Diamondbacks hitters that have been very, very hot, just noticed in the leaderboards. However, I'm not doing a Diamondback, luckily, crossing a different team off the list here.
Nice.
I'm going with I don't know if I've done a pitcher how about that so far this year, so this might be my first one of the year. I'm talking about a guy who I've grown a very, very high fascination with. I've done a seminar and sports analytics project on him. And he's having another interesting year for very different reasons. I'm talking about Alex Cobb, the winner of the Short End Award from 2022.
A unanimous winner, too.
Unanimous winner. Through 40 and a third innings pitch, he has a 2.01 ERA, 2.16 ERA plus, which means he's 116% above average. And he also has a 2.96 FIP. Out of 76 qualifiers, his ERA ranks 5th and FIP ranks 13th. Also, full season sample, by the way. His walk rate is also 5th lowest out of 76. Cobb has a 62.6% ground ball rate, 19.5% line drive rate, 26.0% sweet spot rate, and a negative 1.2 average launch angle against. Out of 77 pitchers with 100-plus batted balls against this year, his ground ball rate is 2nd highest, line drive rate is 6th lowest, sweet spot rate is 3rd lowest, and average launch angle is the lowest. Along with that, so this is where it gets kind of weird with Cobb. So out of 76 qualifiers, his left-on base rate is 5th highest. And a lot of the time, left on base rate can be seen as a luck statistic, which rightfully so. A lot of the times it is. But Cobb is not having these stranded runners necessarily because of batted ball luck. It's not because he has a low BABIP against with runners in scoring position. In fact, it's only 280. This is just because Cobb really ramps it up with runners in scoring position. With runners in scoring position, Alex Cobb has a 38.6% strikeout rate. It's unbelievable.
Wow.
Cobb is not a big strikeout guy,
No,
but
he's
with
not.
runners in scoring position so far this year, a 38.6% strikeout rate.
That usually leads the league over a full season.
And out of 39 pitchers with 40-plus batters faced with runners in scoring position this year, his strikeout rate with runners in scoring position ranks 2nd, only 0.2 percentage points behind Hunter Green. And also, Cobb has a 34.1% strikeout minus walk rate in that situation, which is the highest out of 39. Also, the batted ball profile looks better with runners in scoring position for Alex Cobb. With runners in scoring position, he has an 80% ground ball rate and an 8% line drive rate. And out of 58 pitchers with 25-plus batted balls against with runners in scoring position, his ground ball rate is the highest by 17 percentage points, and his line drive rate is 2nd lowest. So Alex Cobb, his numbers are kind of weird. He has his expected ERA is in the upper 3s, but it's not because the difference isn't because there's a lot of batted balls that should be hits that are landing as outs. It's because he's stranding a lot of runners, and the reason he's stranding a lot of runners is because he's striking out so many guys that he's facing with runners in scoring position. And the funny thing is I looked at what his strikeout rate was when there weren't runners in scoring position, in any other situation. and that was like 16.9%. So he more than doubles his strikeout rate with runners in scoring
He really
position.
buckles down.
It's weird. It's probably it's definitely not going to keep going this way at all. But it's a funny thing to point out. And along with that, great numbers, 2.01 ERA, which is fifth in baseball. Really, really good. So Alex Cobb, for a variety of weird reasons, getting a.
How about that?
Pretty cool.
Yeah, he always has some weird stuff going on. God bless him. All right, so now we go from the highs to lows. We're talking players and subjects that have been underperforming with our May 8th, 2023 edition of.
Slightly alarming.
Who do you have for us today?
So my slightly alarming. He's made 6 starts this year, and because he's struggled pitching, he does not qualify for the ERA title. I'm talking about John Gray, who is starting tonight, so he'll probably be qualifying after tonight. But he currently has an ERA of 4.40, but that doesn't do it justice because he has a FIP of 6.22. Which is the 4th worst among the 108 pitchers with at least 30 innings pitched this year. He has 5.58 strikeouts per 9, 4.11 walks per 9, and 1.76 home runs per 9. None of those are good.
Yeah.
Like, those are the 3 true outcomes. He is doing none of them well.
Yep.
He's got 2 of the 3 true outcomes down, walks and home runs, but not so much in strikeouts. So that's a problem. His K rate minus walk rate has gone from 18.2% last year to just 3.8% in 2023. And a lot of the reason why he's been struggling, specifically both with batted balls and with strikeout to walk, has been his four-seam fastball, which he throws about 47% of the time. 11% of his fastballs have been in game day zone 5, which means they've been right down the middle. That is the 5th highest rate among the 67 pitchers with at least 200 four-seamers thrown this year. His four-seamer also has a 13.3% barrel rate on 45 batted balls against it. It is never above 7.1% in any season, so he's almost doubled his career high so far. Lastly, his outside swing percent has gone down 3% from last year. His zone contact rate has gone up by 6%, and his called strike and whiff rate has gone down by 3%. So, in essence, hitters are chasing less. They're making more contact on competitive pitches for them to hit, and ultimately he is just not getting as many balls and strikes on his side. So John Gray, it's tough to been finding what he's been doing well in the start of this season.
Yeah, John Gray of the Texas Rangers getting a.
Slightly alarming.
And yeah, I know when they acquired him, being a Rockies, he was a Rockies pitcher before this year. Being a Rockies pitcher always has its, before last year. Being a Rockies pitcher always has its weird things. But he always had decent strikeout to walk numbers. So those strikeout, the strikeout rate being below 6 per 9 and the walk rate being above 4 per 9, that is alarming.
Mm-hmm.
My slightly alarming. I for how about that? I did a San Francisco Giants starting pitcher. For slightly alarming, I'm doing a San Francisco Giants starting pitcher, and I'm talking about Ross Stripling, who they acquired for 2 years. I think 25 million maybe. But it was a decent free agent signing. He had a low ERA in the low 3s last year, but this year. He is not looking great. Ross Stripling, in 25 2/3 innings pitched, has a 6.66 ERA, 6.63 FIP, and a 7.29 expected ERA. Out of 148 pitchers with 20-plus innings pitched this year, his ERA is 16th worst and his FIP is 6th worst. And out of 117 pitchers with 80-plus batted balls this year, his expected slugging is 6th worst, and his expected WOBA is 4th worst out of 117, bottom 4% pretty much right there. And Ross Stripling's average exit velocity overall has gone from 88.9 miles per hour last year to 90.2 miles per hour this year. Barrel rate has gone from 9.2% to 12.9%, and his sweet spot rate has gone from 34.7% to 42.4%. Hitters are able to hit the ball at better angles, so he's not being as deceptive as he needs to be in order to get more ground balls, more pop-ups, all that stuff. Also, Ross Stripling's line drive rate has gone from 24% to 31%, and his pop-up rate has gone from 8% to 2%. Pop-ups are, they're hard to get, but they're the best forms of contact to get. Hitters hit and slug like 010, 020 on pop-ups.
Mm-hmm.
And Ross Stripling is getting them at about a quarter of the rate as he was last year. Ross Stripling's top 3 pitches used are his slider, four-seamer, and changeup, and hitters are slugging at least 515 on every single one of those pitches. On his slider particularly, hitters have a 92.5 mile per hour average exit velocity and a 641 expected slugging. Out of 44 pitchers with 25-plus batted balls against on sliders, his average exit velocity against them is 4th highest, and his expected slugging against is 2nd highest. So Ross Stripling allowing a lot harder contact, not being as deceptive as he needs to be. They're barreling the ball up against him. A FIP of 6.63 is just never going to be good at any point ever. So, Ross Stripling so far in 2023.
Slightly alarming.
Heck yeah.
All right, that does it for players to highlight. Now we will get into the final segment of the show, previewing the week ahead. I will be looking at the series to watch. Daniel will be looking at the day-by-day matchups. And by the looks of it, most of the series will be starting today. There's a good amount of Monday games. You can't always be getting that. So for series to watch, I will start out by pointing out maybe I'll do what you do, and I'll save the best matchup for the end.
Fair enough.
There's a 2-game series between the Braves and the Red Sox. Red Sox, as we mentioned, are one of the hottest teams in baseball right now. Braves have been one of the best overall teams in baseball. Or actually, yeah, I think they have the best record right now in baseball.
Do they? The Braves? That would be the Rays, right?
Oh wait, best record in the
League.
National League. Yeah,
Yeah.
I forgot about the Rays. But yeah, you got Braves, Red Sox at Truist Park for 2. Brewers, Dodgers at American Family Field. I believe that's a 3-game or 4-game series. That should be a good matchup. Brewers, probably at this point should be like favorites for the NL Central, considering how bad the Cardinals are playing and considering also the way the Pirates are trending. We knew they were probably going to fall out of first place anyway. And then another good series to watch is Angels-Astros. Angels are ahead of the Astros in the standings. A lot of star power there from both sides. Also Mariners-Rangers. That's a good AL West matchup to go with that. Rangers ahead in the standings, but Mariners are probably a better team. And then the series to watch of the week is Orioles-Rays at Camden Yards. You got two of the best teams in baseball based on results so far this year. 22-12 Orioles versus 28-7 Rays. That's going to be a great competitive series, most likely, if it keeps going the way it has been. All right, what do you got for the day-by-day matchups?
So on Monday, you have a couple of young guys going in Tigers Guardians. Joey Wentz versus Tanner Bybee. Bybee looked really good in his last start against the Yankees and his 2 starts overall. Kyle Freeland and Mitch Keller will go against each other in Rockies Pirates at PNC. You will have Shane McClanahan and Kyle Gibson facing each other in Rays Orioles at Camden. J.P. Sears versus Nestor Cortez. J.P. Sears was a former Yankee, traded in the Frankie Montas trade. Miles Michaelis and Marcus Stroman will go against each other in Cardinals Cubs at Wrigley. Dylan Cease and Zach Greinke will go against each other in White Sox Royals at Kauffman Stadium. Tony Gonsolin and Freddie Peralta will be going against each other in Dodgers-Brewers at American Family Field. My slightly alarming John Gray will be facing the Mariners at T-Mobile Park, facing Logan Gilbert. Zach Gallen will be facing his former team, the Miami Marlins, tonight in Arizona. You're going to want to watch just for Zach Gallen alone. And matchup of the night comes from Angels and Astros in Anaheim. Hunter Brown versus Patrick Sandoval.
Yeah.
Two guys that are worth watching for sure.
Yeah. Brown definitely emerging. Sandoval kind of established himself as a really good pitcher last year.
On Tuesday, Shane Bieber will be facing the Tigers in Cleveland. Shane Bieber absolutely owns the Tigers. He just completely dominates them every time he pitches against them, so that's cool. Zach Eflin and Grayson Rodriguez are facing each other in Rays Orioles in Camden. Max Scherzer will be facing the Reds for the Mets, looking to turn it around. Nick Pivetta and Charlie Morton will face each other in Red Sox Braves in Atlanta. Jamison Tyone will face the Cardinals for the Cubs. Excuse me. Lucas Giolito will be facing the Royals for the White Sox. Noah Syndergaard and Eric Lauer will be facing each other in Dodgers and Brewers. Alek Manoah and Aaron Nola will go against each other for Blue Jays Phillies. That's an interesting one for sure. Andrew Heaney and George Kirby will face each other in Rangers Mariners. Jesus Luzardo and Brandon Fod will face each other in Marlins Diamondbacks. Fod made his debut last week. Logan Webb will be facing the Nationals for the Giants in San Francisco. And matchup of the night once again comes from Astros Angels. It's Framber Valdez versus Shohei Ohtani.
Yeah.
That one kind of goes without saying.
Those are two guys that'll probably get Cy Young votes.
Yes.
And I think already have.
Probably, yeah.
What are you looking at for Wednesday?
So on Wednesday, you got Antonio Senzatella versus Rich Hill in Rockies and Pirates. You have Eduardo Rodriguez facing the Guardians for the Tigers. He's become worth watching. Clayton Kershaw and Wade Miley, a couple of lefties facing each other in Dodgers Brewers. Luis Castillo will be going for the Mariners against the Rangers. That'll be a lot of fun. You will have Edward Cabrera going for the Marlins against the Diamondbacks. Josiah Gray and Sean Manaea facing each other in Nats Giants. Christian Javier and Griffin Canning in Astros Angels. You'll have Verlander and Hunter Green going against each other in Mets Reds. That's pretty cool.
Yeah,
that is very cool.
A little passing of the torch.
Yeah, Brian Bayo will be going for the Red Sox against the Braves. Jordan Montgomery and Justin Steele, newly acquired Justin Steele on my F4 team. Very excited for his Team Daniel debut on Wednesday.
Yeah.
Seth Lugo and Pablo Lopez will face each other in Padres Twins. Lance Lynn and Brad Keller will face each other in White Sox and Royals. The fact that there is no games after 7:40 on Wednesday is pretty offensive. What am I supposed to do that night?
I'm gonna write to my congressman.
Yeah. Matchup of the afternoon comes from Blue Jays Phillies. It is Kevin Gausman versus Zach Wheeler.
Ooh, that's fun for me.
Yeah, I know you'll be watching that one.
I will definitely be watching that one. Both on my F4 team.
Yeah, the only two pitchers on your F4 team as of this
the only two healthy starting pitchers, yes.
Because Jacob deGrom, unfortunately, cannot be there. That is, I feel like I'm just going to skip Thursday. Not a lot is announced.
All right. Sounds good. Thursday, it's just a teaser of Friday anyway.
Pretty much.
But SCTV3 between September and May, they air on Thursdays. So that's a reason to look out for Thursdays.
Yes.
All right. So that does it for this installment of Above Replacement Radio. We hope you enjoyed this one. If you are listening on Apple Podcasts or Spotify and want to watch our digital content, which will be getting up and running, we will soon be a full video podcast since we will be leaving Springfield College campus soon.
Yeah.
Go check out the YouTube channel and subscribe to the YouTube channel. It is called Above Replacement Radio. If you're listening on YouTube and want to just catch the audio, go to Above Replacement Radio on both Apple Podcasts and Spotify. That's where we are. And we hope you enjoyed. If you want to follow us on social media, follow me on Twitter at Chris_Gianza. Follow Daniel on both Twitter and Instagram at Daniel_current. And follow the show Instagram at Above Replacement Radio for all the show needs. We hope to see you. And we hope you enjoyed this one. And we hope to see you next time where we will be talking all the happenings in Major League Baseball once again. We will see you then.
This conversation is over.